All right, we're back with another segment with Envision Lake Charles with our distinguished, very, very special guest, Mr. Marshall Simien. Man, it's great to see you again.
It's good to be
And,
here.
we talked a lot, we uncovered a lot of great things about you, but I feel like there's a little bit more. You moved back, you said you moved back to Lake Charles. Tell me
Yes.
about how was that with your family and things of that nature. Tell me more about that aspect of your life.
Well, my wife is Paula Simien. She's actually Dr. Paula Simien. She's a clinical psychologist, got a PhD. She's from Lafayette, and when we were living in New Orleans, she was not going to let me move her to Lake Charles because she just said, if you move me back to Lake Charles, we got to have a long talk. But when my father got ill,
Yeah.
to my surprise, she said, if we moved to Lake Charles tomorrow, what would we miss that we couldn't come back and visit in New Orleans? Floored me, so we moved. Now, at the time, we had my oldest son was 3 years old. Right now, he's 29, so he just got married last year. He lives in Indianapolis. He's a computer engineer at Nucor Steel. So, and then, but we had just had my second child, August. He was just born. He was a few weeks old, and he's in May. He graduates from Tulane Law School, so he's about to go and leave the nest. And then when we moved back here, we had a daughter, Grace. That's how she came to us. That's her name, and she's in a freshman year at Texas A&M University. So she just finished her first semester.
Oh, yeah.
And she finished with all A's. Now I can tell you, she didn't get that from me. That's definitely her mom.
That's a mom trait, huh?
Yes.
That's it. And and speaking which, you moved back to Lake Charles when your father became ill. Tell me about the state of Lake Charles. Let's get into the state of the city of Lake Charles. Let's talk about that.
You talking about currently what the state
Yeah,
is?
currently, what's the current state of the city of Lake Charles?
Well, I came back in '05, but I can tell you, as of right now, it's almost 20 years later. We've gone through these hurricanes in 2020, the pandemic and everything else. That was a sluggish recovery comparatively, because we're almost 5 years out, and there's still, some people may think we've recovered. We really have not. Maybe half have come back, and the other half may have moved on. And this isn't just people that didn't have ability to come back. That was good people that left that they thought for a few months, and they found that their children really embraced a better life in other places. And most people they want to do the right thing for their family.
Yeah.
So a lot of them didn't come back, and some of them went to Houston. The schools rolled out the red carpet. They had quality of life. They had more resources, more entertainment for the children, and they decided not to come back. So we've got that loss of population. We've got the sluggish recovery. But we've also got what I call is 3 cycles. I saw 3 cycles when we went through hurricane recovery with Rita. The first was, you get this bump in sales taxes because everybody's buying things. You got to fix your houses, you got to buy new furniture and everything else. You can't depend on that because that's going to flatten out. We've already gone through that. A lot of people have spent a lot of things, and the insurance and the recovery that we had here was based upon my profession, the lawyers. There was a federal judge, James David Kane, put together a case management order that allowed the legal profession to get after the insurance companies. Because if we wouldn't have done that, you'd still see blue roofs all over the place.
Correct.
You see businesses failing. So that really would jumpstart the recovery. It wasn't the public sector side. But you're still seeing but the second bump that you get out of that is when hurricane recovery money starts coming in. And that's some important money because that's a one-time infusion that you're going to get, and you really need to invest that and put it in places where it's going to help you grow. I think currently what I'm seeing is just putting money out on the streets, and that's been said. I just want to put money out on the streets. So there's really no rhyme or reason of what's going on, and there's some things that aren't going to be sustainable when that money flattens out. Now the third leg, and this is primarily one of the reasons why I'm running, is that when I was on the city council, we had everything I started from the port board with bringing the LNGs in. We had LNGs starting to get built. We had plant expansion, and that was an opportunity to get more jobs, more investment. And so that part is about to come because when Trump won the election, there was about $60 billion worth of LNG projects for this area under the industrial ITEP program that had been authorized. That was waiting a final investment decision. My understanding is that's going to happen now, and this place is about to go through that third bump. But the third bump is the one that can overwhelm you. If you're not prepared to assimilate people, grow, everything else, you're going to take on a lot more problems that's going to drain your resources. And that's why it's very important that we have the right type of leadership
Yeah.
and the right type of vision that's going to help this city grow to reach its full potential, so that when we do reach another hurricane or disaster or whatever else, we're not stuck losing people and having to go to Washington, D.C. hand in hand.
Yeah, I want to touch back on something that you said earlier. You talked about whenever the hurricane hit, the city of Houston rolled out the red carpet for Lake Charles residents.
Yeah.
As a potential mayor coming up, how would you roll out the red carpet to other cities to come in to where we can now start benefiting from people moving to our city, or even the ones that moved away moving back? How would you do that? How would you handle that?
I think I'll use my family as an example. Most people want a good quality of life. You want to raise your children in a good environment, but you also want to be in an environment that's going to be fun and exciting for them, that makes them want to come and do other things. The unique thing about Lake Charles is that, we have a entertainment industry that's second to none in terms of gaming. I mean, we already have people coming here from Texas, but they'll come in, they'll game it, and they're going back out. I talked to Dan Lee, who was the head of Pinnacle when they built LaBerge when I was on the Port Board, and he said, if you use entertainment as a base to bring new dollars into your economy, he said, and this entertainment is the most people think about, oh, I want more grocery stores, shopping centers. Well, people will drive 20 minutes, maybe a half hour to go to those things, but for entertainment, you'll drive 3 hours to take your family someplace to get entertained. So 3 hours takes you to New Orleans. It takes you on the other side of Houston. It takes you to Shreveport. That's 9 million people. So think about, if you had a pool of 9 million people to draw over here, how would you do that? And I was talking to some students at McNeese who said, yeah, but Marsha, how do you make that happen? I told them, I said, you realize back in the day, Elvis Presley played in Lake Charles, Kiss played in Lake Charles, Michael Jackson, Prince, it blew them away. They said, well, what happened? I said, well, Lafayette wound up building the Cajun Dome. Beaumont built the Ford Theater, and now instead of new money coming in and people visiting here, we have to go out to those places.
Wow, right.
So that's always been a vision. How do you get the place to be fun and exciting, but also not sacrifice the quality of life? And to do that, you want to try to create a city that's going to bring new people in, but that new money has to have an avenue where it flourishes. The local businesses, it makes its way into the community. If you run your economy right, every new dollar should circulate about 7 times through your economy before it makes its way out. And those are the things that I'm not seeing focused on. I'm just seeing money just thrown out on the streets.
Wow, man, that's amazing. I've never heard that analogy of having the dollar cycle 7 times before it leaves out. That's impressive, because that means the local businesses are really benefiting, and our state and local taxes that we drive off of their revenue, we're really taking advantage of those things.
Yeah.
Now let's change gears. You're running again. First time you ran in the mayoral campaign was when?
2017, Randy Roach had, after 17 years, decided that he was going to not run again.
So you ran again. You ran for the first time. What did you learn about that campaign that you're utilizing to help you be successful for this campaign?
Well, I learned that there was a lot of people in that race. First of all, and the way you look at it, it was one candidate on one side and then everybody else, and they split a lot of votes. I came within 100 votes of making the runoff, and most things say that if I'd have made the runoff, it would have been done. But the biggest thing I learned is that to be the mayor of Lake Charles, you have to be the mayor of all of Lake Charles. And there's some bridges that need to be built, not just the I-10 bridge, but there's bridges that need to be built between the communities. Not to say, oh, I'm going to take you this or do that, but to make people understand what each community brings, because that's what makes the gumbo, the culture, And some people think, well, the northern part of Lake Charles, I remember when I was on the council, that was a mindset that any money that was spent in the northern part of Lake Charles was a waste because it could have been better utilized on the other side of town. I always looked at everything as, well, what does the North bring to the table? What does the South bring to the table? What assets do they have? Just like I looked at the port, how do you utilize that? We've got an I-10 corridor passing through our city that is the most undeveloped I-10 corridor in any metropolitan area I've ever seen. And in 2017, I put out a video that talked about that. I said, I was using conservative numbers, 70,000 cars a day. I think it's more like 85,000 that passed through. But if you had 70,000 cars a day passing through, if you could get 1 month's worth of cars to stop in Lake Charles and spend over the whole year $1,000, if you go on vacation, that's a no-brainer. That would have generated $2.1 billion. Wow. $2.1 billion.
It's a lot.
That's money, but that's in the private sector. So you think all the businesses that could take advantage of that. Now you take that money and you say, well, that circulates through your economy, but let's be even more conservative. Take half of that. If you got $1 billion off that one area, I-10, and that circulated not 7 times, but 3 times, that's $3 billion, new dollars into your economy.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that could do for businesses,
Yeah. New quality of life for sure. And, you're talking about everything with this campaign and what you have going on. One of the things, me personally, I would want to know, we're going to put it out there. We talk all the time.
Sure.
Are you ready to lead the city into the next phase?
I am, Donnie. And if you look at my track record, everything that I've been working on, I'm a lawyer by profession, but I do public service. I'm a public servant. People say politician. I don't ascribe to that. I'm a public servant. So that's what I do. Some people do volunteer work in different things. I do it by serving the public. But everything that I've been a part of and worked on is coming to fruition. When it was on the port, it was bringing in gaming. It was bringing in the LNG. When I was on the city council, it was about recovery and putting in infrastructure that would help the city grow. So at this point in time, everything that we need to do that I thought of would be one generational, because of the second hurricane, there's a sense of urgency to get it done. And I've been a part of getting all of that done. Even outside of the public service on the city council, when I was chair of I'm the immediate past chair of the community foundation. We got a $2.5 million grant to come up with a recovery plan for our area. Not just Lake Charles, but Southwest Louisiana.
Yeah.
So we came up with this 50-year resiliency plan called Just Imagine. Now, you got things like Just Imagine, but Nike says just do it.
Yeah. Right.
There's commercials out there say get it done. So we can just imagine things, or it's time to get it done.
Correct.
And that's where we are. And I think I'm ready to lead because I've been part of getting these things done, and now all of them are starting to come to fruition.
Yeah, and we have a lot to cover, but before we go into our break, I want to ask you this question.
Okay.
What is real recovery to you? What does that mean? What is real recovery, and what is restoration? So, everyone talks about recovery efforts, restoration, right, but what is real recovery and real restoration to you?
Real recovery for me is when you've done better than you were before. And some people say, wait, real recovery should be getting back to where you were. We can't go back to being Lake Charles 2.0 because Lake Charles 1.0 didn't do well in this recovery, this hurricane. So we've got to come back better than we were before. If you look at what happened on my side, the profession side, the legal side, we got after the insurance companies, a lot of businesses and a lot of people were able to build back bigger and better than they were before.
Correct.
They got all the things off their checklist. That's recovery. The other part of it is be strategic and intentional about your recovery so that you can leverage the things that you have to make sure that those continue to grow for you. Remember I talked about we had all these concerts that used to come in and name acts, but we got complacent, and next thing you know, Lafayette built the Cajun Dome. Well, we've got to continue. We can't just sit on our laurels and say, okay, we've arrived. Recovery means continuing. You got to continue to be in recovery mode in terms of enhancing and strengthening yourself and your assets.
Yeah, and that's incredible. We have a
lot to work with.
Got a lot to work with,
Yeah.
and again, we just appreciate you giving us your time. Here with Envision Lake Charles, we really want to dive into the real thick of things that we need.
Everything's on the table now.
Everything is out in the open, and we're gonna cover it all. So we're gonna end this segment, and we're gonna come back with Marshall Simien with another episode of Envision Lake Charles with Marshall Simien.
Thanks.
And so.